I'm Venkat Ramaswamy. I'm a professor at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. When I have studied, in my recent book, The Power of Co-Creation, I've looked at over 40 companies across 20 sectors globally. And one of the things I find very remarkable is that the companies that do it very well pay a lot of attention to what I call building engagement platforms. And that's at kind of the heart of very effective co-creation. And what it is the way in which you assemble together people, interfaces, processes, and artifacts in very effective ways. So the real question is, how does it become effective? And really, we've identified the fact that it becomes effective when the engagement through those platforms are more inclusive, they're more meaningful to the participants of the platform, they're more creative. Co-creation is also about co-creativity, tapping into people's creative abilities, and is also ultimately very transformative. Now the next question is, well, how do we accomplish that? And so we've identified kind of 4 building blocks. One is dialogue is very critical. If you want to include people, dialogue has to be effective, which means the way people can share, interact, and communicate with each other, whatever they want to express, content and their opinions and so on. It's also about ideas and generating insights. The second one is transparency, which is transparency to the events that happen on the platform and also kind of the output of the platform, and to know what's happening. And so having this feedback mechanism between the person who's kind of facilitating the platform and among the participants of the platform. The third piece is access, which is access to knowledge, tools, and expertise. It ties into the tapping to people's creativity. So allowing people to modify, extend things, and not just use them. And the fourth one is reflexivity, giving them the tools to actually put it back on the platform so the platform evolves and it actually becomes what I call kind of win more. People get, I put something into it, somebody else puts something into it, and through those interactions, something new is created, which everybody benefits from. So I think those are some of the things that I find successful companies doing. Sure. Actually, I'll give you 4 quick examples because they are in different realms. The first one is Nike and Nike Plus, which is actually a platform through which runners can be engaged in actually creating better running experiences and more compelling running experiences. So the way it works is you have a sensor which actually keeps track of your data about your running. So which is how much you've run, pace, distance, calories, things like that. And that data then goes on to an online platform. So it can be collected through many ways today. If you have an iPhone, you just download the Nike Plus app. If you don't have an iPhone, if you're an Android user, for example, then you need to have an armband. You need some device that can actually capture the data and then input into this online platform, which Nike facilitates, where it's not just about the data now, it's really the conversations around the data and to now derive value from the data. So Nike provides tools through which you can kind of chart your progress, you can set goals, you can accomplish certain things you want to accomplish. If you're a marathon runner, for example, or if you're a casual runner, you can engage with your friends, or if you're a serious runner, even engage trainers and coaches. So they're constantly expanding the ecosystem as these new stakeholders now. So they started with the runner, but then the runner brings in the trainer and the coach, and then now they're working with fitness companies. So it actually grows partnerships. It started with partnership with Apple, then with Google, now with fitness clubs, with marathon organizers. So I think what people ought to see there is that you may start with a platform, but as the platform expands, what you're really doing is expanding the ecosystem, and that's really true co-creation. So that's one example. Another example might be Starbucks, which has a platform through which My Starbucks idea, they actually generate ideas. But what is interesting there is that the enterprise actually interacts back with the users. So it's a two-way and two-sided process where they actually take a lot of the ideas, but then they run it through their business screen in terms of things that make sense to them from their point of view, things that are not only desirable by the community, but also which are feasible and viable. And so they have this kind of ongoing conversation. And so as a Starbucks participant in their platform, you don't have to be a customer to participate. But let's say I'm a Starbucks customer, I feel more of a connection that that they're actually serious about this. So it enhances trust, because today there's a huge deficit of trust because companies have been this kind of one way. So by having this continuous loop It actually not only creates more connections and brand relationships with the customers, but really has a very different and more enduring basis on which to build the brand itself. A third example might be a business model that is created from this idea of co-creation. A good example is Local Motors, which has actually created an entire ecosystem of designers who actually submit designs for cars. And we're talking about a car here, not just a T-shirt. So there's a whole process by which, of course, they manage that part. Then a particular design gets vetted in terms of manufacturability and so on and so forth. That's where Local Motors is as much part of this process, right? Then once it moves to that phase, now you can come in and say, as a buyer of the car, I want a different skin, I want a different look and feel, and so on. So as an individual person now, I can now have a very different experience in actually building my own car. And then the entire ecosystem can participate because all of this underlying technical data about the car is out there, completely redefining what an aftermarket might be, right? It's open source, so people can download the data. So anybody can now take that model that Local Motors has now built and augment the value by actually building some specific accessories for it and so on. So anybody can actually participate. So you're starting to see the shift in terms of even entirely new businesses and business concepts coming through this kind of frame of co-creation. And of course, you can also apply this internally with employees as kind of stakeholders. A good example of that is Orange Telecom, which I also discuss in the book, The Power of Co-Creation, which is co-authored with Francis Goya. And there, what's fascinating is here you have this large organization, it has 88,000 employees. In the last 5 years, they have actually been able to generate over 100,000 ideas and take 10,000 of them and actually convert them into real projects. So the process from submitting an idea to actual deployment of an initiative, that whole process is transparent to a particular employee who has a dashboard to actually track the idea, just like you might track a FedEx package. So it's kind of paying attention to a lot of these kind of details to ensure that it's easy to participate and things are transparent again, and people kind of see that something's happening in the system, and then the trust starts to build up. So coming back to the case of Orange, it is amazing for me that 40,000 of their 88,000 employees have actually submitted an idea. So you can see the enormous power, if it's done right, to actually build a more enduring basis for enterprises. Yeah, so none of this is possible without technology, because technology is really enabling this large-scale participation, right, and collaboration and co-creation ultimately. So what is happening actually today is that a lot of, for example, IT companies or kind of technology companies, more generally speaking, are actually building the basic components of these engagement platforms, which support it. So I think today what is fascinating is, given that we have, for example, smartphones, we have iPads, we have a lot of development of like web-based tools for communication also. Companies like Cisco have telepresence, for example. So there's a whole hodgepodge. IBM has a lot of social collaboration tools that it uses, and it actually offers as part of its services portfolio. So there are lots of new technologies which are not just information, but they're more like communication technologies and technologies that actually help facilitate new experiences. So that's happening very fast in terms of providing those kinds of basic tools. Then you have people who are now able to build through the latest generation of the web, which allows for things to be actually changed, things to be much more flexible or agile or transformed, right? So today, just like if you look at web pages, today you can go and personalize a web page very, very fast. You couldn't do that before. So the malleability, if you will, of these components have really gone up in the sense that the technologies allow for things to be changed, to morph into something else. So since you're starting to see these new technologies allow for this kind of participation, I think you're going to see again exponential rise in the way in which we can actually utilize co-creation to kind of advance the way we create value together. Another thing I must mention is there's also this whole world of sensors. which are actually facilitating collection of very granular data. So your iPhone has a sensor, going back to the Nike example. And so the world, so physical artifacts in the world are becoming more and more intelligent because it can be embedded with intelligence, right? And so I think that's kind of offers a lot of rich possibilities. Just to give a very simple example, I just came through security at Detroit Airport, and they have this now pilot where they have a special lane where you don't have to actually take out a lot of your stuff. It just kind of goes through. Totally amazing experience given the kind of experience we typically have at airports. But what I found interesting is when you come out, they have this little poster where there's a scan code, and it says, tell us about your experience. All you have to do is just point your smartphone at it, and then you can give that experience in real time. It's not getting a survey like in the mail, or somebody calls you at a point in time when it's removed from that experience you had. So the fact that I could do that in real time and say, wow, that is cool. So you're starting to see, the ability for these new technologies to actually facilitate people to not just participate on a platform, but also through that platform to generate ways in which you can create new outcomes that people value. So there are all kinds of possibilities from having this kind of much more richer world of experiences, which I believe is going to kind of drive the next round of innovation, through co-creation.